morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski. I'll be your host for today. We have a jam-packed February on the go and coming up over the next 20 or so days. We have tons of live events. Our last newsletter went out on Sunday. You can also find everything at exploringbytheseat.com. Check that out with your classrooms. And if you're so inclined for a little in-the-field action, I will be in Senegal and Gambia for about 12 days. I'm bringing a satellite unit with me. I'll be sending live videos and pictures to classrooms every day, as well as doing some spontaneous live events as well. So if you want to get in on some of that action in the newsletter, you can register with your email to get included on that email list. Okay, well, continuing with our theme for the day, our theme for today is sailing. This morning, we were in Antarctica with the Under the Pole team. They're doing some amazing scientific diving in the mesophotic region. So diving really deep with rebreathers and looking at the biodiversity of the underwater forest there and the corals and marine life. And we're going to head a little bit north to catch up with the Around the Americas expedition. So if you don't already know, we've been doing a lot of really fun events with them as they've been on their 14-month voyage. It started in May of 2025. And they're circumnavigating North and South America. It really is just one big island. They're doing it on board the 48-foot sailboat One Ocean, and the mission focuses on scientific research, education, community outreach to raise awareness about ocean health. And all this builds on a previous journey, 2009, 2010, where now they can collect new data, compare it with that baseline data, and look at the ways that our ocean is changing. So let's see if we can find a few people hiding out backstage here. Let's get everybody in here front and center. Hey, team, how we doing?
Hello, good.
Hi, Joe. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Joe. Good to see everybody. Let's get some quick introductions to start off.
Okay, here we are. We're the Around the Americas crew, all of us on board here and even behind the scenes there. And we're on board in Conception, Chile right now. And I'm Jennifer Dalton. And we have...
I'm Tess Shornack.
I'm Mark Schrader.
Sean Eldon.
I'm Grace Dalton.
Oh, can't hear you, Grace.
I'm Grace Dalton.
Grace Dalton and Mike Beamer.
We can't hear those two for some reason, but that's Grace Dalton below us. And then we have Mike Beamer over there. Can you say something, Mike? Can we hear you?
They're coming through on this end, Jennifer. For some reason, they're getting blocked out on yours, but we hear everything, so we're good.
Oh, well, that happens.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody, for being here. And, Joe, thanks for having us again. And like I said, we're in Conception, Chile, and it's been pretty spectacular. We're on our way south to go around the Cape Horn. And we're just hiding out here right now because of a big windstorm outside there. And I think Mark's going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But really exceptional place to be. And we had a really neat experience yesterday. We saw a bunch of South American sea lions. And Joe has a little clip that we want to share with all you kids because it was really fun to watch the sea lions play with the boat.
All right. Clip is coming up right now.
Okay, thanks you guys. So that was our experience on a boat yesterday. And if you could see in that video, there was some giant kelp down in here in Chile and kind of ties into what Grace will be talking about. But we thought it would be really fun today to also show you a little bit about our sailboat, One Ocean. And here's Captain Mark to tell you a little bit about One Ocean and what we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
One Ocean is sitting in a bay that is really historic. This little community was founded in 1575. The bay has been useful for boats coming around Cape Horn, square riggers, sailboats. If they were damaged, they could make it to Concepcion, which is about 600 miles to the Horn from here. They could refit. And you see, if you'll pan out here, with the storm coming, that's still happening. This is a port of refuge for ships going around Cape Horn or coming back from Cape Horn. If they need something done, it's the biggest port, closest port, and it has repair facilities for big kinds of things. Luckily, we don't need those repair facilities. We're doing pretty well, but I thought it'd be nice if you got an idea of what happens in our sort of outdoor control room. If you're looking carefully, you see that the steering wheel is missing something. It's that way because it's easier to walk around if you can fold it up and go around. But most everything that we need, particularly at night, has to be well organized. We've got instrumentation up here. You see depth under our keel of 29 feet. The wind right now, you'll see the positions, and the wind is over here, and you'll see the wind fluctuate. It's a very sensitive instrument. Right now, it's not blowing very hard, 10 or 12 knots. We'll probably see 40 in here by the end of the day. The sail controls, the engine controls, navigation pod right here. We can pretty much control everything, and we have some protection. But if something has to be done outside of this cockpit, we require everybody at night and in any kind of stormy weather to put on their safety gear. And so while I'm doing this, I'm going to demonstrate what our ultimate Plan B safety gear is. It's called a survival suit. We have survival suits. These are immersion suits in case you have to get off the boat and you're going to be in cold water. And the standard is you need to be able to get into these suits within 2 minutes of saying go. So as I'm giving you a tour here, we're going to say go to John right now, and you guys all start timing it, and I'm going to keep talking. He has to get into that suit. He has to be totally focused on getting into that suit, and that's it. I'm going to go on talking while he's doing that. Cockpit winches, these are electric. We have big sails, and they require a lot of sort of muscle power if you don't have the electric, but they work both ways. They work with hand cranks, and they work on electric. The back deck, aft deck it's called. John seems to be doing pretty well. I'll try and confuse him because all the lines he thinks, if this were a real emergency, things would be going on here that he hasn't expected. And if we had a bucket of water, I'd throw it on him. But we still only have 2 minutes to get into this suit. I don't know where things would be going around. People would be getting in the way. You'll be yelling and saying things. You just don't know what's going to happen. But right there in the middle of all the equipment, oh, he's trying to get in now, standing up. We have our underwater drone. We have 2 drones on board. The underwater drone, it can go down 100 feet. In this cable, we can control it. It has a pincher arm, so we can pick something up if he happens to drop something. We have an aerial drone that's down below in a case. We've tried to fly it off the back deck, and Mike Beamer can talk more about how successful that is. So other things, storage containers, sail, supply, other hardware, dinghy deck, back, swim step. We have this, keeping people from just falling over accidentally. The dinghy sits right here. The life raft is right here. So what I should be doing is deploying the life raft while he's trying to get into shore. What's the time look like?
You have 30 seconds.
You're not actually in your survival suit until you have the hood over your head. Most of the heat loss when you're in cold water, it's from heat coming out of your head. And if he had somebody that would help him, maybe there's somebody who's strong enough. There you go. He might take it. There it is. Now it seems to be there's a zipper. There's something else in the way there. And the last bit of this is he has to jump in the water. Float. There you are.
He did it.
If you have to get off the boat, this is all you get. You got a whistle. You can blow up the collar. You can put the Just a line you can put in here like that. That's it. Nice job. 2 minutes, eh?
Yep. Pretty much off the dot.
Okay. All right. Now,
Okay, so is he
we have a
going
man
to jump
overboard
in now?
pole. He had to get on the water. Somebody's throwing this in to mark it so we can see. We have a fishing pole if we had the fish. This is a big boat hook, about very long. We could pull somebody in. And again, the side deck sails. I'm not going to unroll them right now because they're just going to start flapping. But the mainsail controls are all under here, and you might see the lines are color coded. And at night, and they're labeled. Have a look at that. They're labeled because in the confusion sometimes of having to do something quickly, you've got to make sure you've got the right line. But most all of this can be controlled from right here. On forward. On forward. You see the hatches. You would typically at night be doing this on a lifeline. So now I'm hooked in. And if I happen to fall off, at least this is holding me close to the boat. So if you're on deck at night or in stormy weather, you're always hooked on. Mast controls, hoisting the mainsail. And or in this case, with a bid like this, we would raise this little staysail. This is just an extra sail that's being stored on deck because it's very big and bulky. There's not really any place. It's stored underneath Tess's bunk, and that's just too hard to do. Wandering along here with my safety line. That's the quick tour.
Thank you, Mark. We're going to go
All right.
downstairs real quick. If you can still hear us, Joe, are you still connected?
We still got you. Can you hear me?
Good job, Jen.
I think so. I can't hear you anymore, Joe, but
Think
I'll
they
keep
can hear
talking
us?
unless you tell me to cut. Okay, we're good.
Still good.
Here's
All right.
Tess, everybody.
Hello, welcome inside our beautiful home. Right now we have all of our instruments that we use for our kelp research. We have it all laid out here. And this is our CTD. We have a Secchi disc as well. And then this connects to our quadrat. So we put a GoPro on here so it gets super cool underwater footage, which is really fun. And then we have our other drone. So this is, I believe this one is the infrared drone.
Nice job.
Grace can probably talk more about that. And then we'll also have videos online about that as well. So go check those out.
We
But
also have the big camera at the ready when we see whales.
yes, there's a lot of instruments we have on board. We also have a hydrophone inside of the cubby, but it's a little quick debrief.
But this is really our main area here where we eat, we do our dinners together, and it's kind of the main area.
And then we track where we are as well. And we're somewhere over here. This is our Big Bertha.
Main navigation area with the seat. When it's really bad weather, we can sometimes be inside as well.
Yeah.
And then otherwise we're downstairs.
Okay. Down here we have our kitchen where we make all of our food. Everybody takes turns making dinner. And then when we get to ports, we stock up on fresh veggies and eggs, all of those things.
So we have the fridge, we have a freezer in the countertop here.
Storage.
And everything's well stored so nothing can rattle or move or fall over when we're underway
Yes.
and it's bad weather.
Yep. And then we have a little whiteboard.
Even the oven here, it's on a gimbal, so it can be unlocked here and it will rotate back and forth under high extreme conditions.
Cool. And then we have one room. This is the V-berth. Nice and spacious. A bathroom here.
The head.
And we have some bidets.
I'm guessing there'll be questions about the head after from the kids and how to use.
This is where we store our survival suits. So what John just put on his body, we have them down here. So we have a set of instructions, who grabs survival suits, safety procedures. We have that all down and we practice. Another bed. This is called a lee cloth. And then when we're in heavy conditions, it helps us all from falling off our beds. Engine here.
Engine room is down in here. That's for another show, I think, which we'll have Mike discuss.
And then another bedroom. 2 beds here, another head,
All with Lee cloths because we've undergone a lot of big weather lately.
Yes.
And another head. We've been pretty lucky. We have 2 heads and a shower.
It's pretty awesome.
And an office space and even a big TV where we got to watch the Seattle Seahawks win the Super Bowl.
Yes. Yeah, super fun. But this is inside.
Okay, so that's kind of our tour, and now I think we're going to pass it over to Grace. We thought it would be fun to just show a bit of our instrumentation that we have on board. Grace was going to be joining us. Hi, Grace. She's going to be joining us soon in a few days to come down and do some more kelp exploration here, and we'll make sure to share that with you all when we record some stuff. But really looking forward to seeing her. Thank you for the tour, Tess.
Thank you, guys. Alrighty. So now I'll share a quick presentation and we'll just kind of go over our kelp research we're doing and some cool things we've seen. So, alrighty, hopefully you can see that.
Looks good, Grace.
Perfect. Okay, so into the kelp forest we go. So what is kelp? So kelp is a giant brown algae. It's actually not a plant and it grows underwater. And they grow quite fast and they build these huge underwater rainforests. People could compare them to the rainforests of land, but just in the sea. And kelp forest provides food, shelter, and oxygen to all ocean life. It's a very important ecosystem. So our research on the boat, we're studying bull and giant kelp in both North and South America. And what we're trying to focus on for this research is where does the kelp grow? How healthy is it? What hurts or helps kelp? And that these answers are really important for us later to protect kelp and the animals that live there. The way we collect this research is we take underwater and aerial videos and images of kelp forests to find this out. So here I'm going to play a quick video, and it's an example of one of our quadrat drops that we do when we go to these kelp forests around North and South America. And it's just a little snippet of what our data looks like under the water. So our quadrat's dropping down into a bull kelp forest. A quadrat is a measuring tool we use in these studies. In this particular video, it is showing us the underwater view of this kelp forest. And this is really important because it shows us species that are living there, like different algae, fish, jellyfish, seals, things like that. This imagery also gives us information on the density and health of the kelp canopy. You can see how dense it is, if there's damage, and what could possibly be impacting kelp forests. And here we are pulling the quadrat out of the water. So now, in this next video, I want to see, it's kind of long, but I want to see if you'll be able to spot a few little creatures that come up to the camera and say hi. Alrighty, so did you spot it? So as you can see, there were a few sneaky little harbor seals in that video. There looked to be 2, maybe even 3 of them that came up to the camera and checked us out. And we were in a bull kelp forest. So this is a great example of how animals use kelp forests. Seals in particular rely on kelp forests for protection. The dense kelp acts like underwater camouflage, helping them stay hidden from predators. Kelp forests are also very important feeding grounds. They attract a large number of fish and invertebrates, so seals often hunt and feed in these habitats. Also in that previous video, you can see obviously the main species bull kelp, but you can also see another species called sea sucker kelp, which was near the bottom of the video. So it's showing that kelp forest does have a vast different amount of species that grow within it. So here's another video. See if you can spot anything interesting or any cool species to look at here. So once again, were you able to spot there was a leather sea star and a sea cucumber that were pretty right in the center of the video? But there was also near the end of the video, a moon jellyfish floated past the camera. And if you looked closely as well, there was another species of kelp. It's called winged kelp, which grows much shorter than giant kelp and does not form the large surface canopy as bull or giant kelp do. So once again, these are great examples of how kelp forests support a wide variety of organisms and how a lot of these species depend on kelp forests for food, shelter, and survival, which is why these ecosystems are so important. And it's also why studying them is so important as well. And once again, this is all video clips we've collected with our own research. So it's really interesting data to see what kind of species are in these kelp forests. So once again, here's another video clip. Just see if you can spot some interesting things. So something interesting about this video is that even though it's taken at a kelp forest site, there's very little visible kelp. The rocks are very barren with minimal algal growth, so keep that in mind. Alrighty. So once again, so the quadrat there, and that's that white box you see, it definitely bounced around quite a bit during that video. It's a 1 meter wide by 1 meter tall quadrat, and it's a big pyramid, so we want it to be vertical when taking these images. So sometimes it can bounce along the surface until it reaches a somewhat flat spot to settle on. So you can see, once again in this video, you can see a leather star, if you saw that, and then you can also see several sea cucumbers. And at the end, when the quadrat settles at the end of the video, you can see lots of white, small, feathery branching structures. And these are actually buccal podia from sea cucumbers. That's how sea cucumbers feed. These sticky tube-like structures capture particles from the water and then move them to the sea cucumber's mouth. So in this video, you can see both the sea cucumber, there's a few full body moments where you can see full body sea cucumbers, but you can also see their feeding structures in action, which is pretty cool. You can also spot some green urchins. There's quite a few green urchins in that video. And this is really important because sea urchins are a major threat to kelp forests when predators like sea otters or sunflower sea stars are absent. Urchin populations can grow rapidly, and they like to eat kelp. So large number of urchins can overgraze kelp and severely damage or even eliminate kelp forests. So that video was interesting because we were in a kelp site, but as you can see, there wasn't any kelp in the video. So it makes you wonder when someone's analyzing this data, you see all those urchins and makes you wonder how necessarily they are impacting this kelp forest. Okay, here's another little video. It's a bit longer, but if you can spot, there's an animal kind of spying on the camera again. So just keep an eye out and then see if you also see any other interesting features. This video was taken up in northern Vancouver Island along the Alert Bay area, and this is a cool little video clip. Alrighty. So in this video, it is longer. You can see that I'm struggling to get the quadrat into the kelp forest because the canopy is very thick. Sometimes dropping that tool can be a bit difficult. So it will take it can be a few takes of going up and down to get it through that thick kelp. And that's why the camera is moving up and down so much and not going all the way to the seafloor. But also in the video, I don't know if you spotted, but we had a little harbor seal spying on us. This seal looked very curious. It came back multiple times throughout the video, so that was a fun little surprise. It again highlights how kelp forests in basically anywhere along the world provide habitat for large marine animals like these harbor seals. At the bottom of the video, you can also spot these large white structures that almost look like giant cauliflower, and those are the giant plumose anemones. And so that's another very interesting species that we get to see in these kelp forests growing. And another species you can see once again is the sea sucker kelp, which is at the bottom of the seafloor. You can recognize it with the lines that are going down the middle of the kelp. So this video really just shows the diversity of organisms that live in and around kelp forests and rely on it. Alrighty, so this is a short clip. I want you to see the blades of the kelp and what might be on these blades. Okay. So this video highlights an important concern for kelp forests. You may notice these small white specks covering the kelp blades in the video, and these are called bryozoan colonies. Bryozoan are colonial animals that can grow on kelp blades, smothering them and making the blades brittle and weak. This can cause the blades to break much more easily and can also limit light absorption, slowing or stopping kelp growth. So along with the sea urchin grazing, bryozoan overgrowth is another stressor that scientists are trying to monitor when studying kelp forest health. So videos like these that we collect when we go around North and South America really help identify issues and stressors that these kelp forests are facing. It also just gives us a line on how these kelp forests are doing. So we can see at this site, there's quite a bit of bryozoan covering these kelp blades. So we know that the kelp forest is quite infested with bryozoan, and it's important to monitor that in the future and see how this kelp forest fares. So this is another reason why this data is important, not only to see the species that rely on kelp forests, but we get to see things that are harming kelp forests, and that can help us possibly monitor and protect kelp forests in the future. All right, and here's our last little video. Quite quick as well, but it's just once again showing a fun little species that rely on these forests. did you spot it? Those fish species swimming past, those are called pile perch. And they're common species found in kelp forests. And they use kelp forests for shelter and feeding. And once again, demonstrating how these forests provide an essential habitat for many different fish species. So other than our quadrat, we also study kelp forests from above. We use drones to go up high and take larger imagery photos of these kelp forests in multiple different colors. And then that way we can get a big picture of what the kelp forest looks like with its density, its size, its thickness. So we can see both underwater with the quadrat and now above the kelp forest as well. We also use satellite imagery to see a even broader scale of the kelp forest. And you can see that in the little map with the red and then the Google Earth imagery. We are comparing, that's a kelp forest there, and we're comparing it to two different imageries, overlapping it. And then we're gonna go in person and see if that's actually what the forest looks like in this moment. So you can see our drone that we fly, that's the drone controller. The drone's doing a little grid pattern in the far right photos there. And then in the bottom right photo, you can see Mike and I setting up the drone to go fly it. So we do this at every single kelp site along with the quadrat. So once again, why this data matters. So it detects change early. It shows shift in kelp forest health in the species, health around it, even in the ocean conditions health as well. And so it helps give us a little warning sign before problems become critical. This data also helps guide management. It provides evidence for a sustainable fishing, conservation, and marine protected areas, as long as it also helps support restoration. Data informs how to regrow kelp forests in damaged areas and measure recovery success. If we collect data over a long period of time, you can then see and measure if kelp forests are getting worse or better. So that's really important to see. If they're getting worse, then you can figure out why is that. And also this data hopefully helps inspire action. Showing results of these kelp forests and what's impacting them hopefully drives ocean protection. It gets people and young kids like you guys inspired to learn about kelp and really love the ecosystem and want to protect it in the future. So that's the end of it. Any questions?
Okay, let's start bringing everybody back in here with us. Boat team, can you hear me now? Oh, can you just hit the mute? You guys are on mute. I can't hear you yet, but I think you can hear me. So that's a good sign.
Okay, can you hear us now?
There we go.
Now, can you hear us?
We gotcha. Yeah.
No, how about we turn off the phone and just do the computer?
Okay, so they're going to do that. We're going to get to some Q&A action. I've got questions coming in via the chat, so don't be shy to send in any questions that you might have for the team. And then we'll get them back in here. Maybe we'll start with some of the boat questions, because I think, Mike, you'll be able to tackle some of these while they're coming back in here. So Xenon's joining and wondering how long a boat like the team's would take to build.
A boat like that is typically, I would say, a year minimum at a boatyard. So the boat was a custom build. Production boats, they can spit out a little faster, but something in that size range is a big commitment for a boatyard. Yeah.
Well, now we're going to get down to like brass tacks of things. Dominic wants to know, a boat like that that the crew's using, how much funds would you need to be able to have a boat like that?
Well, depends on if you commissioning it for new or buying it used. We didn't have the budget to commission something new, and it would have taken too long. But new, probably in today's money, you're looking at, Mike, $1.5 million for all of the equipment that's on board. On the market, something like this boat was built in 1995, had some special features to it, but it was, we were looking in the $250,000 to $400,000 range.
But then with a total refit on top of that to make it worthy to go to the places where we're going. So we're creeping up there in budget. You're looking at well over $500,000 for it.
Oh yeah, we're probably $650,000, $700,000 if you pay a boatyard to do all of this. But since this was an education training exercise, it helped us, and I think it helped your boat builders.
Yeah. One more question about the boat before we get some kelp action. I have a student here who would like to know, would the boat survive a tsunami?
Well, that's interesting. There were in Banda Aceh in the last big tsunami, I remember that's probably 12 years ago. There were a lot of boats sort of in this size range because they were cruisers.
Responding.
In Indonesia, Banda Aceh. So I may have that wrong, but anyway, there's good video of boats just sort of circling around in a big whirlpool and being able to handle the tidal wave that happened, and they survived. It really depends on where you are. If you're very close to the coast and the tsunami is breaking on the coast, you probably need a plan B. You're going to be in a survival suit and hope somebody picks you up. But at sea, boats like this can survive huge waves. Depends on really size and all about where you are.
Well, the interesting part about that too is when Mark was on the expedition 15 years ago in 2010, just up north of our last stop, they actually had just left the dock there when a massive earthquake hit Chile.
Southern Chile, it was a big earthquake.
Destroyed that whole marina.
Well, and it destroyed the marina. We're not in the marina here because they haven't rebuilt the marina. But all of the water the day after we left in this big marina went out. And boats were high and dry. This was a big marina. And when the water came back in, it came back in 8 feet higher than it had been. So it flooded a whole lot of the boats, and they lost buildings and boats. So it depends again on where you are and what really the characteristics of the tsunami might be.
All right. I have a couple questions to get through now. So, Grace, we saw some really cool creatures, marine life, including those seals, which were great. But I have a class wondering about otters. Have you seen any sea otters on the journey?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes, we actually have seen quite a few sea otters, I would say. We saw the first couple very northern Vancouver Island, right around Alert Bay, actually. So one of those video clips, we saw a sea otter after that. And then we just continued to see more and more the further north we went. So yeah, we have seen quite a few sea otters. There was one time we were sailing along and there was a raft of like 20 sea otters, 30 sea otters all together. It looked kind of crazy to see out in the middle of the water. But so yes, we have seen sea otters, which is pretty incredible. We haven't caught it on any underwater footage yet with the Quadrat, but above water, us being on the dinghy and on the boat and in the kelp forests, we have seen them.
All right, very cool. Michelle wants to know, how quickly does kelp grow?
Oh, that's a great question. They grow quite quickly. For example, bull kelp grows very quickly. They grow about, I believe, 1 foot a day, even sometimes to 2 feet if the conditions are really, really good. So they can grow very, very quickly. That's why they get those big, huge, towering canopies and rainforests. So 1 to 2 feet a day if conditions are really, really nice.
All right. Question about the gear that you were using and putting down into the kelp. Well, it's a two-parter, I guess. Does it ever get stuck? Or do the seals ever mess around with it or play around with it?
So first question, yes, it does get stuck. You saw in a few of the videos, the camera was bouncing up and down a lot. That's me trying to get it through the kelp. We actually had one instance where the kelp wrapped around the top of the camera on that Quadrat and snapped the camera off. And we ended up losing the footage for that kelp site, could not recover the camera. We did go snorkeling to see if we could find it. We could not, unfortunately. So that has happened. Other than that, nothing else too insane has happened. And then have we ever had seals mess with it? Not yet. I think those seal images that I showed were some of the closer encounters that we've had. I'm very curious, though, with the South American sites that we're coming up on, if we're going to get any action, though, and have any seals come up. So that would be pretty cool to see.
I actually wonder if we dropped foot here, if those sea lions, the South American sea lions, they definitely would be messing with it. They were very curious.
Yeah, we the Darwin 200 expedition, which is wrapped up now, but when they were sailing around the world, we had a little ROV we'd put in the water around Patagonia area, and they'd come right up and look into the lens of the ROV. They thought that was pretty cool.
So cool.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, let's see. Okay, Ramon wants to know, this might be a hard question because I bet you there's a lot, about the different types of kelp that you've seen. How many different species do you think you've seen on this journey so far?
We've seen, so we're studying bulge kelp and giant kelp. We saw one forest where it had bulge, giant, and also ribbon kelp all growing at the surface. It was very, very dense. This site was up in Alaska. That was pretty cool to see 3 species of kelp create a huge forest like that. We've also seen there's a lot of near the ground kind of kelp that you see when you watch the videos again. So there's sugar kelp, the sea sucker kelp, the wings kelp. So those are some easy ones I can name off. There's definitely some other species that I've seen that I haven't been able to identify yet or just looked into yet. So there's definitely a lot of different species of kelp. In Washington alone, I believe Washington State in America, there's 22 different species. So lots of different species. When we go and do the full analysis of the videos, I'll be breaking down everything I see in those videos, such as hopefully more specific kelp species. So hopefully my list will grow. But so far, I have definitely seen that I can name off the top of my head 5 to 6 different kelp species. And that one forest with the 3 species that were growing as a canopy and was really thick, that was really cool to see. So,
Grace, when we were in the Arctic, even under some of the ice, we saw kelp.
Yes, there was sugar kelp that our anchor pulled up that grows very low to the ground. It's near the bottom. And so when we pulled anchor, we pulled it up. So that was really cool to see that as well.
All right, very cool. Mike has disappeared. I think he's going to watch that boat launch that he was talking about. So hopefully that goes well. It was great to have Mike hanging out with us for a little bit. The sea lion video that we watched, are the sea lions still around the boat, or did they get kind of bored when you guys just set anchor?
No, they are actually very close to the boat. We were in our dinghy less than half a mile away, maybe a quarter of a mile away. And there's a whole colony of massive South American sea lions, which in South American Spanish, they call them lobos. We kept thinking all these islands were called lobos. We kept thinking that was wolf, but it's actually sea lion. So there's massive ones right here. And they came pretty close to our boat. They followed us back, but I think they're waiting for us to go play with them again because they literally just kept playing and playing and playing. We have a lot of footage of that from yesterday.
We're going to send John out in the survival suit and see what they do.
We'll drag him behind us.
Yeah, there's no point in putting it on and not getting to test it. You got to make sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's see. Kelp farming. How do you guys feel about kelp farming?
That's a great question. This was something that we crossed paths with quite a bit up in Alaska. There's a really popular company there called Barnacle, and we talked with, I personally talked with some professors that do kelp farming. I do think it's a sustainable method if done correctly, and if the areas are scouted correctly. I know there's a very long and tedious process in doing that, and it can work out. It also can fail pretty easily, but I do think it's a very sustainable process. Obviously, kelp forests are a great habitat in the ocean, so growing them is a great idea. And so, yeah, I'm in support of kelp farming. We did try some kelp. We cut up some stipe, which is the long part of the kelp, and one of our crew members, Tim, actually tried to pickle them. I personally wasn't a fan, but I don't know, maybe he was. So we did try it. I'm not a fan, but I know some others are. So
yeah, I tried eating it. I didn't mind it.
All right. Brianna would like to know, the bull kelp, does it get those white specks on it that weaken it?
Yes. So that video that I showed was the bull kelp blades, and those are the bryozoans. So those are a serious threat to kelp forests, especially up where we were doing research at the time, which was up in northern America, BC, Washington, Alaska. A very serious threat. They grow on these blades, basically overtake these blades, cause the blades to snap, weaken, stop growing, and kelp need their blades to do photosynthesis and grow. So if the blades are breaking, that's going to stop the kelp from growing, and it could eventually kill them off and damage kelp. So that was something that was really interesting going through the different kelp sites. Some sites would be overrun with these white little specks of bryozoan. And some sites you didn't see any. So that was something that was really interesting to see the difference in bryozoan. And that's a pretty kind of up and coming new study. We're trying to figure out ways to study that better, such as putting a drone up in the air that can possibly process the bryozoan that are on these blades. So there's new research coming out about that, about how to study it more efficiently. But yes, it's an ongoing and current threat to kelp forests that we're trying to figure out.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. The interesting thing too is the science that we're doing, the research we're doing on board with the combination of University of Washington's Applied Physics Lab. They're doing the continual heat flux, so they're measuring the surface temperature, atmospheric as well. And so they're kind of combining and sharing all of this data with all of the kelp research as well, and also the whale research. So we're getting a really good snapshot, and all these researchers coming together to possibly look at the different things that might be going on in those areas.
So speaking of the Washington team, when is the next microbuoy drop?
Cape Horn.
Yeah, I think Cape Horn.
Yep. So that should be, we're about 600 miles from there. So we'll schedule that and put one at Cape Horn, and recording wave heights and current is going to be pretty interesting on that one. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll get it out there.
All right. I've got some grade 7A class in Toronto, and they would like to know, what's the most surprising thing that's happened on the ship so far?
Oh dear. Well, you never want to really talk about the stressful times, but the surprising thing was how different the North Atlantic was from anything that I had seen, and the storms, and particularly the temperature. 90-degree seawater. For most of the Atlantic, we were in between, Halifax and wherever we stopped, Puerto Rico. That is extraordinarily high, and we've tapped in with what other scientists have found, and it has been an extraordinary summer up there in the Atlantic, and that was probably the most surprising. But that led to some really severe weather, and we encountered some of that, and happily the boat wasn't badly damaged. But there were some repairs necessary, and so it's one of those things that can happen pretty much anywhere.
And I think for me too, I think the other thing is our lack of sleep, the constant rotation, and the crew cycle, because we're up all through the nights while we're underway, and just how often maintenance has to be done. And Mark is such an experienced sailor and has really shared a lot of knowledge with us. But you're constantly fixing, looking at things, and he's very good at looking around ahead of time and making things easier. So something that might be a little awkward to do, he figures out how to make it a little easier, because life on board is not easy. And when you're underway and you're always in motion, even when you're sleeping, and if it's big weather out there, your body's always moving 24 hours, 7 days a week. So Mark is always looking for things to make life a little bit easier while we're underway, and I really appreciate that. So that's just something I didn't realize how much that impacts us, but it really does.
What about you, Tess? Anything that's
different? Yeah, I would say one thing that surprised me recently was the abundance of squid fishing and just fishing in general.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever we're sailing during the nighttime, oftentimes we're met with lasers directed right at the boat, which is a little bit concerning, because we're like, the first time it happened, what is that? Why is there a green laser shooting at us?
From a long way away.
From a long way away, for sure. So navigating that was definitely interesting. And then kind of that paired with some mornings we'll wake up and we have almost 20 squid that have landed on board that we have to clean up. So we have squid ink and squid still on board, their body outlines, so we'll toss them over in the morning.
All right. Well, you were just talking a moment ago about progress and keeping the boat moving, things like that. So Avia would like to know, the kelp, has it ever been thick enough to tangle up in your propeller or slow you down?
Yeah.
Yes, in the dinghy particularly, yes. And that, I mean, experiences recently as 2 days ago or yesterday, I guess it was, going from here to the little village. We pretty much couldn't get through, and it didn't look all that thick, but it stopped our dinghy. So yes, I don't know about a bigger boat. Could foul things up a little bit, but
yeah.
And of course we try to avoid that because we want that growth to happen. And I know in Washington State, they're really doing a lot for eelgrass and kelp to protect it. So we really try to avoid it as much as we possibly can.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring the map back in here because we're getting about that time where we're going to sign off for today. But I'd like to know, and I'm sure the classrooms would be interested, what might the next few days look like? So we see you here in Concepcion. We see you there in the bay. What are the next few days going to look like? What's the plan here?
well, the plan, it looks like we have about a 3-day window. We're going to go to Puerto Montt, which is about 400 miles down the coast. There's a little pass through. I can't see it on the map.
More south, Joe.
Right there. You see
yes.
it? Yeah, there's a passage right there that we can get through that passage at the right tide. Pretty fast current. We go into that bay, and then we go to Puerto Montt, which is fairly close, and it's inside. So we have some protection from big outside weather. Typical for right now are strong westerlies, southwesterlies, and an adverse current. So we're delighted that it looks like the forecast looks pretty benign for the next 3 days. We can get into that pass, get into the inside channels in Chile, and then in and out of channels for the next 600 miles along the west coast of Chile down to basically Cape Horn.
Very cool. You can see all the channels here, the fjords. That should be pretty special to sail through here and see some of that. We look forward to seeing some video clips.
Oh, good. And yeah, so right now we're in Concepcion. It wasn't really on the itinerary, but that's just part of sailing. There's a big windstorm that's rolling in, and we're going to have to, like Mark said, time those. It looks like we have an opening for 3 days, which is pretty remarkable down here in this time of season. And so we'll take off early in the morning, tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, and head to Puerto Montt.
Okay, very cool. Well, I want to start with a shout out to our classrooms joining us today. Thank you for sending in all those great questions, especially those kelp ones. And then a shout out to Grace. Thank you for a great presentation. And of course, to our team on board the sailboat. Thank you for that great tour today. It was great to see your living space and see how the space you have. Sometimes I'm sure it feels like you're living on top of each other. And I think sometimes it probably feels pretty good when you're surrounded by whales and sea lions and other things. So.
And
John isn't right here because he's still trying to get out of the suit.
He's not.
Okay, well, I hope you guys give him a hand. You don't want to overheat. But shout out to John for being a good sport and crawling into the survival suit for us. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a great class. Thank you very much, Grace. That was very interesting.
Thanks,
and thank
Grace.
you, Joe. Thanks to all
Joe.
classrooms for joining us. We really appreciate your support.
So before we sign off, there's the website, oneisland1ocean.com. There it is. Check it out. Hang out. The map is there. Educational stuff is there. Definitely worth a good hang. And we will see you guys closer to the end of the month for another session.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Signing off. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.